Today we speak of a future in which India will be a major economic power in the world. However, this forecast is a mere reflection, a diminished one at that, of the prosperity for which the land was known for ages, so much so that it attracted a steady stream of plunderers for many centuries. For the better part of our history, Indian kingdoms did a fantastic job of defending the borders, but gradually the defense was eroded by the theologically inspired fanatical invaders, resulting in the establishment of several Islamic states in the 13th century current era, and the process culminated with the establishment of the Mughal Empire in the 16th century. With the breakdown of traditional Indic institutions, wealth began to be concentrated in the hands of the new aristocracy who had nothing but contempt for their subjects, leading to great poverty in the areas under their control. However, the macroeconomic data does not reflect this poverty, partly because the wealth remained in India unproductively in the hands of the alien rulers, and partly because many parts of India, especially down south, were still governed by native dynasties. Angus Madison, historical economist, shows an interesting graph of the percent of world GDP of different nations from the year 1 current era to 2003. His work shows India having the highest percent of the world GDP in the year 1 current era at 33%, and subsequently on a declining curve, India went through a period of invasions that steadily declined its economic activity, a consequence of the breakdown of society. The rate of decline accelerated from 1700s, the onset of the British colonial exploitation, through independence and beyond. At the earlier end of the graph, we can extrapolate backwards in time, where India held a much higher share of the world GDP. This is supported by the works of, for example, Dr. Srinivas Kalyanaraman, who has made many discoveries on the economy of the Saraswati Sindhu civilization. For the longest time, India's economic prosperity was built on its farmers' agricultural wealth and the works of the artisans who produced all items necessary for daily life: clothes, pots, pans, jewelry, and such. Contrary to the stereotypes prevalent in the present discourse on Indian history, the richest people in Indian society were the farmers and the artisans, followed by the business guilds and the landlord classes. M.K. Gandhi, he besieged Indians to produce khadi, wear domestically made clothes, and reject foreign goods. It sounds a little strange in this era of unprecedented globalization, but there was a strong rationale to it. The British did not have any manufacturing expertise worth a mention. They learned manufacturing skills in textiles and metallurgy from Indian artisans and plumbed the Indian texts for their knowledge in sciences, medicine, and math. This knowledge, coupled with the money extracted from India, was used to fund and fuel their industrial revolution. The finished goods from Lancashire and Manchester were shipped off back to the Indians, who were forced to buy these, thereby outcompeting the artisans' products. This resulted in widespread poverty all over India in all classes of society. Gandhi was an eyewitness to the depredations brought about by the British in the economy and was desperate to stop this. Virtually overnight, the British imposed high taxes, as much as 56% by some accounts, up from an enlightened 15% taxes followed by the Hindu kings. The population could not afford to pay such high taxes, and their properties were grabbed by the British and their agents. Widespread poverty ensued in various classes of society. The ruling classes and the landlords were disenfranchised by the British power grab. The farmers and the artisans were taxed beyond their means and could no longer support the village temples, leading to a collapse of the Indian education system, impoverishing the village teacher, priests in addition. Over the years, widespread poverty led to people offering themselves as indentured laborers to be shipped off to distant Mauritius, Fiji, Malaysia, West Indies, and provided a cheap source of labor exploited by the British. Inspired by the manifest destiny of United States, a sorry excuse given by the European settlers in North America to expand their control across the whole continent, the British produced their own bigoted doctrine of lapse, where if the ruler of a dependent state died without a male heir, the land would be seized by the British. In Thanjavur, Tamil Nadu, as an example, several centuries of prosperity under the protection of the Vijayanagar Empire came to an end when in 1700s Hyder Ali and the French started attacking the Maratha ruler Shivaji II, who in turn sought the protection of the British. When the ruler died without a male heir, Thanjavur was grabbed by the British, leading to enormous turmoil in the society. Thanjavur is of course just a case in point. The doctrine of lapse facilitated the transfer of land ownership across India to the British government and their own institutions. For example, the church. In fact, the various church bodies in India continue to be the largest owners of non-agricultural land in India more than 70 years after independence. In quantitative terms, Will Durant in the book The Case for India says that the British incurred a national debt of $3.5 billion by 1929, a figure that doubled or tripled with the expense of World War II and independence. Economist Utsa Patnaik notes that the British drained about $45 trillion from India between 1765 to 1938. Putting that in perspective, Britain's GDP in 2018 is about $3 trillion. On the strength of these observations, we can now note how widespread poverty became endemic in India in the last 200 years or so. Just as medieval mosques were built from the rubble of India's great temples, all the glitter of the modern West is the dust of India's past. I'm Raj Vedam, Director of Indian History, Awareness and Research for Upward.